Hey everybody, it is Wednesday, November 27th, Thanksgiving Eve here on the Mo News Podcast. I'm Mosheh.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines and give you some stories to talk about with your family that hopefully will not start fights at the Thanksgiving table.
That's right, Moshe. A promise that this podcast has some non-political stories.
Non-political stories that you can discuss with people in your family who may have very different political views than your own. We also want to take this moment to tell you about the best deal of the year for Mo News Premium. Our Black Friday special begins today for a limited time only. Anyone who has not joined Mo News Premium, you can now get 3 months free with our Black Friday special over at mo.news/premium. The code is Turkey. Turkey will give you 3 months free, $10 off the already discounted annual membership. A reminder that by joining Mo News Premium, it's a way to support what we're doing here at Mo News. It gives you access to our private Instagram account, gives you access to deep dives, the various workshops we do on a number of news topics and historical topics, weekend news coverage over on Instagram, the members-only podcast, and most importantly, a calm, informed community of news enthusiasts who can engage in respectful conversations about some of the more controversial topics in the news. So many reasons to join Premium this season. But if you've waited this long, we have a special for you. Again, the code is Turkey for 3 months free off of an annual membership of Mo News Premium. But we're not going to forget about you who are Mo News Premium members already. We have a special for you as well. With the code SHAREMO, you can get $30 off the annual group membership. So invite your best friend, a family member, the guy who sells you lotto tickets on the corner, but you really like him and you talk about headlines. Any of them are cordially invited to join your Mo News group package, Mo News Premium group package. And so why not begin this season by adding someone to your premium account so you can discuss all those things that happen on weekends or join workshops together. Again, if you're already a premium member, the code is SHAREMO to have a discounted group membership, to add someone to your group membership. And so we appreciate all of you who have been supporting us over on Premium.
Moshe, as you were talking about all of the people that you could share your Mo News Premium with, how about sharing it with someone with whom you usually disagree? Because you could allow them to get some nonpartisan, objective info and perhaps have more productive conversations.
Yeah, begin the New Year's resolution early. Your colleague, your friend, your family member who you have disagreements on, join Mo News Premium. Let's see what they bring us on a daily basis. And hopefully it'll lead us to, if we can't agree on certain issues, at least have the same frame of reference and be working off the same fact sheet.
Okay, and with that, let's get to the headlines here. Done deal. Israel and Hezbollah agree to a ceasefire, how it will work, who will oversee it, and what it means for the situation in Gaza. And the 101 hostages still being held captive there. Here at home, Walmart is the latest company to pull back on DEI efforts. What could be behind it? And then Moshe, as mentioned, we are leaving the hard news for after the holiday weekend, and we're going to talk all things that are safe to talk about at the Thanksgiving dinner table, meaning nothing too political, starting with something we can all agree on. Airline fees are out of control. What the Senate is looking to do about it.
Well, most of us agree on it. The airlines have something else to say about it.
As always, the voice of reason here, Moshe.
Just saying, if there's somebody at the Thanksgiving table who works for an airline, maybe this is not the topic to bring up. Or maybe it is.
Holiday shopping season is officially upon us, but experts say that shoppers are picky heading into Black Friday, which means that retailers could win or lose big. Speaking of big business, the Thanksgiving box office could be massive, with Moana 2 looking to eclipse holiday records. One of my favorite Thanksgiving traditions, watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. What is new this year? Who's performing? Plus, a little parade history, Moshe, that I threw in there just for you, because I know you love it.
Jill, I'm thankful for you and adding a little history to that story.
Plus, Moshe will have On This Day in History.
Yes, an abbreviated version so we can get to our annual final segment on this Thanksgiving Eve.
That's right. We'll take a little time at the end of this podcast to talk about what we are thankful for this Thanksgiving. All right, to the news now. By the time you are listening to this podcast, the Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire will have started, slated to take place Wednesday at 4 a.m. local time after nearly 14 months of war. It is a 60-day ceasefire, but leaders there and in the United States hope that it will continue beyond that. Under the terms of the agreement, Israel will gradually withdraw its troops from southern Lebanon, allowing the Lebanese military to mobilize and move in to secure the area. Hezbollah has agreed to remove their forces to at least 20 miles from the Israeli border. The ceasefire would end the deadliest war in Lebanon since its civil war ended in 1990. A reminder, Hezbollah is a U.S. designated terrorist group backed by Iran that operates out of southern Lebanon. The most recent round of fighting started on October 8th, 2023, as Hezbollah launched rocket strikes in solidarity with Hamas in Gaza. It forced tens of thousands of Israelis in the northern part of the country out of their homes. And in the past few months, Israel launched a full-scale bombing campaign and ground incursion, and in the process has decimated and killed most of Hezbollah's leadership and destroyed much of their infrastructure. Part of the reason that the terror group has accepted a ceasefire. They had previously said they would not stop until the war in Gaza ended. President Biden spoke about the deal on Tuesday afternoon. Now, that last part of what Biden said, reiterated by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said that under the terms of the deal, Israel reserves the right to strike Hezbollah targets if it sees that Hezbollah is violating the terms of the agreement. Biden says no U.S. forces will be on the ground. He also said this deal provides a new future for Lebanon, whose people deserve peace and security. Mosheh, as we've talked about, so many Lebanese people have been displaced as well because of the fighting, and in some ways also feel like they are victims of Hezbollah.
Yeah, and in a number of cases now over the last few decades, Hezbollah keeps dragging them into a war that they don't want.
And President Biden also talking about the Palestinians in Gaza, saying that they too deserve peace and security. He said that Hamas has refused for months to negotiate a hostage and ceasefire deal in good faith. And he is hoping that this deal with Hezbollah will put a little bit of pressure on Hamas. To be clear, this is a completely separate ceasefire deal than what has been talked about for months with Hamas in Gaza. Biden says, though, that within the next few days, the U.S., along with Qatar and Turkey and others, will make another push for a ceasefire with Hamas so that the hostages can be released and that the war can finally end there. He says without Hamas in power. But back to this ceasefire, Mosh, between Hezbollah and Lebanon. It sounds great, I guess, on paper, but of course, this is the Middle East, which means there are countless things that could potentially go wrong here.
Yeah, we'll call this a ceasefire. In many cases, it's really just a breather here. The Israeli military exhausted, looking for a break after 14 months of war. At the same time, Hezbollah, desperate for a ceasefire. Their entire leadership is effectively gone, has been assassinated by the Israelis. When we're talking about the toll on Lebanon, we're talking about 3,500 plus dead, 15,000 injured. The belief is the vast majority of those Hezbollah related, though the Lebanese government doesn't distinguish between civilians and Hezbollah fighters. The Hezbollah has lost most of its arsenal. It came into this war with nearly an estimated 200,000 rockets and missiles. The Israelis have estimated that they've taken out 80% of that. At the same time, Hezbollah has launched nearly 20,000 rockets and missiles over the course of the last year. So for Hezbollah, they need to regroup, rearm, figure out who's running the terror group. They need to be resupplied by Iran and Syria. At the same time, they also need the support of the Lebanese people. You know, Hezbollah purports to be the fighters fighting on behalf of Lebanon, even if many Lebanese people are like, yeah, we would rather you not be doing that. And so for many of them, they've suffered here, especially in the last few months here, as Israel's really escalated things and launched bombing campaigns in Beirut and across Lebanon. You mentioned the displaced. The number is estimated between 1.3 and 2 million Lebanese have had to leave their homes over the course of the past couple of months here. So for many of them, they're like, listen, Hezbollah, we know what you think you're doing, but we're not really a fan of what you're up to here. So for Hezbollah, they're desperate for the support of the Lebanese people, and they're dealing with the ramifications of just being decimated by the Israelis, which is why they basically cried uncle or yelled uncle there and said, yeah, we're ready for a ceasefire, even though the war in Gaza continues. The fear in the region, though, is that Iran and Syria will use this time to resupply, rearm, reorganize Hezbollah. The agreement here, as you mentioned, takes Hezbollah behind what's called the Litani River, which is about 18 miles north of Israel, where they're allowed to basically do their thing. They just can't go south of there. Who will be south of there? The Lebanese military. will officially be in charge of ensuring that Hezbollah does not break the agreement like they have before and head towards the Israeli border. The issue with the Lebanese military, it's pretty weak and has either been unable or unwilling to control Hezbollah over the course of the past couple decades here. A reminder, Hezbollah is basically a hybrid militia, terror group, political movement that's also in the government. It'd be like if we had a political party. It would be like here in the U.S. if we had a political party that also had a military arm and would send rockets and missiles at Canada or Mexico once in a while, and our own military was unable to control it. That is sort of the challenge in Lebanon. And so the reaction right now is mixed. There are some Lebanese people who are like, listen, Israel, could you have taken care of these guys for us? There's also people in Lebanon who are like, thank God the war has stopped here. We just hope and pray that we don't get involved in another one of these because we have our own problems here in Lebanon, a terrible economy that's completely collapsed, a transitional government that's been transitional for way too long, inflation that is 20 times to 100 times worse than the worst inflation we saw in the U.S. Then you have Israelis who are saying, isn't this just temporary reprieve? If I go back to my home in the north, is there a chance that Hezbollah could send a rocket at my house or business? Or when I go back up north after having been gone here for a year plus, is my home even there? And that's a huge issue here for these Israelis who have not been able to live, nearly 100,000 of them, in their homes, haven't had a chance to return there, and are unsure whether their home is even standing after a year of war and 20,000 missiles, rockets, and mortars that have been launched on Israel here. So right now, the big hope is this is it for a while. It also allows everyone to focus on ending the war in Gaza. There's an impression here that Netanyahu knew from Trump that as Trump comes in, he doesn't want to have to deal with the war in Lebanon. So he said to Bibi, wrap it up. So now the focus is what happens next in Gaza, and this reinforces to Hamas, what's left of Hamas in Gaza, that no one's coming to bail you out anymore. The big goal, the big hope of Sinwar, the leader who is now dead in Gaza, was that this would launch, his October 7th attack would launch a regional war that would lead the entire Arab world to invade and attack Israel. At this point, Hezbollah is like, we're out. You're on your own, Hamas. And so the feeling, the hope is, and this is something you heard from Secretary Blinken yesterday, is that Hamas will be like, well, I guess we need to wrap it up here too, because no one's coming to help us out at this point.
All right, to some business news. Walmart, the nation's largest private employer, has become the latest company to make changes to its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, also known as DEI. It follows an online campaign by a conservative activist. So the company says that it will stop considering race and gender when choosing suppliers. Walmart also will be replacing the term DEI with, quote, belonging. They'll be removing the term Latinx from official communications. They'll also ban third-party merchants from selling, quote, inappropriate sexual and or transgender products marketed to kids. Walmart will also no longer share data with the Human Rights Campaign. It's a nonprofit that tracks corporate LGBTQ policies. They're going to discontinue DEI training offered by the Racial Equity Institute. They'll also be ending Walmart's charity initiative called the Center for Racial Equity. Walmart and other American companies made significant DEI pledges in 2020 as a response to George Floyd's murder. However, in recent months, many have rolled them back. That includes Tractor Supply, Lowe's, Ford, and Molson Coors.
Yeah, you can add Boeing to that list as well. Nearly a dozen companies have said, yeah, we're not doing the DEI thing anymore, or at least not at the scale we've been doing it the past couple of years. As you mentioned, Jill, they're not even going to use the word DEI anymore. At Walmart, the word is belonging these days. There is the pushback they've gotten from the right. There is Donald Trump's election. But then on top of that, there's a fear of litigation. The Supreme Court case, the decision we told you about recently regarding the end of affirmative action, ending race-conscious college admissions, the concern among these companies is that effectively could mean the end of race-conscious hiring. And so that's why at Walmart and these other companies, there's fear that ultimately there could be lawsuits here, and there's threats, and there have been some filed related to putting an emphasis on hiring people solely based on their gender or race. We should note, by the way, Walmart put out their numbers. The majority of employees at Walmart, 51%, are people of color. And then among new hires, that number goes up to 59%. And so that is the deal right now at Walmart. It does come as there was an anti-DEI activist named Robbie Starbuck. He's a social media influencer. And he said he warned Walmart last week that he was preparing a big story on what he called their woke policies before holiday shopping, and said that he was basically going to call on all of his followers, several 100,000 people, and hoping for it to go wider, to boycott Walmart around Black Friday and the holidays. Walmart says, no, it was not due to him. We were already in progress here on the DEI situation. In a statement, the company saying, we've been on a journey, and no, we aren't perfect, but every decision comes from a place of wanting to foster a sense of belonging, to open doors to opportunities for all our associates, customers, suppliers, and to be a Walmart for everyone. Jill, I think there's sort of an all of the above situation here. There's a belief also that a lot of these DEI initiatives the companies were pursuing, not so effective, were more about, just DEI in name only. I've heard from a number of you in the Mo News community who said that at your company, you might have gotten DEI training, or they put in someone in charge of DEI and you never heard from them again. And for many of you, it felt like your company was checking a box and not actually trying to affect any change internally. So you see sort of this trend line here where there was this overcorrection, and now the pendulum is swinging back.
All right, time now for the speed read for some non-political, or at least non-controversial stories that we think you could safely mention at your Thanksgiving table.
Here in today's speed read, a couple stories to bring up at the meal tomorrow.
For everyone traveling by plane, no surprise, you may have paid a lot of money on fees. This story from CNBC: a Senate committee on Tuesday slammed U.S. airlines, large and small, over fees to pick seats on flights. Between 2018 and 2023, American, Delta, United, Spirit, and Frontier brought in $12.4 billion in seating fees, including for seats with extra legroom, as well as for those in preferred locations that are closer to the front of the plane, or window or aisle seats. This is all according to a report from the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. The report says that last year, United's revenue from seating fees totaled $1.3 billion, which is the first time since at least 2018 that surpassed checked bag fee revenue. The report also says that in 2023, United charged as much as $319 for an extra legroom seat. Spirit charged as much as $299. Delta charged as much as $264. Frontier, $141. And American Airlines charged as much as $140. Mosh, nothing against a little legroom, but that's a little pricey. It adds up.
It adds up, and the big issue, especially for the senators here, is that they're also charging families to select seats in advance, compelling parents with children to basically pay to sit with your children. On top of that, Jill, their issue with the airlines, they're classifying this on their taxes as optional fees, so they're not paying taxes on these billions of dollars they're making on these fees. So they have some answers. Now, Delta, among other airlines that's spoken out about this, saying they look forward to a dialogue here with the Senate. There will be a hearing coming up on December 4th called "The Sky's the Limit: New Revelations About Airline Fees." So we'll look out for that. We'll make sure to be covering that. The trade group that represents the airlines here, Airlines for America, says that air travel has actually become more affordable and that customers can choose what they want to pay for on board. They claim, this is Airlines for America here, the report demonstrates a clear failure by the Senate subcommittee to understand the value of the highly competitive U.S. airline industry and what it brings to customers and employees. The report serves as just another holiday travel talking point. It does come as the Biden administration, Pete Buttigieg as Transportation Secretary, has been trying to crack down on what they call junk fees here, making the airlines more transparent, increasing refunds, cash refunds, trying to hold the airlines accountable when they delay or cancel your flight. So this is just sort of the latest initiative. Remains to be seen with Republicans coming in the majority there and the Trump White House, to what extent they continue this.
You had to mention politics.
Sorry. You can talk about the airline fees and just focus on the airlines. Don't bring up whether it's Democrats or Republicans.
From the Wall Street Journal, retailers are looking for Black Friday to reignite tepid demand from budget-minded shoppers who have been hesitant to spend this year unless they are getting a good deal. Shoppers are continuing to pull back on discretionary purchases like clothing and shoes while spending more on food and other essentials. Although inflation has cooled, prices have not reverted to pre-pandemic levels, and consumers are still frustrated that they are paying more for many things like groceries and childcare. The coming Black Friday weekend is less important than it once was now that retailers basically roll out holiday deals in October as a way to tempt shoppers to buy earlier. But still, the day after Thanksgiving is expected to be the busiest U.S. shopping day of the year. Target's CEO says consumers tell us that their budgets remain stretched and they are shopping carefully as they work to overcome the cumulative impact of multiple years of price inflation. Walmart, though, thinks it's got some good momentum. They had some strong back-to-school numbers and also strong Halloween sales.
So looking at the big picture here, Americans have spent 4% less on clothing, accessories, and footwear during the first 10 months of this year versus the same period last year. This is according to one group that tracks spending on 100 million different credit and debit cards. Now, one of the few apparel categories that has actually increased year over year is fast fashion, which eked out a small gain so far as shoppers are looking for lower priced alternatives. By the way, Black Friday in general has majorly changed now that more and more people shop online. I know a number of you who finish your Thanksgiving meal and immediately head to begin your shopping. You know, it wasn't so long ago, and I think people still line up to a certain extent. They like the tradition of lining up outside the stores and the shopping malls, but I think there's less of people ripping each other's heads off for a television set, and more people kind of just sitting on their phone on the couch, nursing the what's it called, tryptophan?
Right, that chemical in turkey that makes you sleepy.
Yes, though we can't give it all the blame. It has to do with the fat and the protein content and, you know, the sugar spike you get from the pies, etc. Nonetheless, that's where you're doing the shopping from there. We should mention that following Black Friday, you have Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday. Again, it's all cyber. It's cyber everything, right, Jill? Cyber Friday, Cyber Saturday, Cyber Sunday, Cyber Monday at this point.
It is for me.
You're not headed out to camp out outside of Best Buy on Friday morning?
I think that's one of those traditions that we'll look back on in like 30 years and our kids will be like, what happened? What were you guys doing? I mean, I've covered, as a news reporter who used to work in the field, I have covered many a Black Friday event, and it is wild what we will do for a couple $100 off a TV.
Right. Our kids will grow up and they'll be like, we don't need TVs in our house. We grew up on iPads. Who needs a TV anymore? Yeah. What is that thing hanging on the wall? So there you go. Another discussion point on this Thanksgiving, Black Friday and what the deal is there. Also, I mentioned again, Small Business Saturday. We've made a point here of creating the Mo News Small Business Directory. This is small businesses and independent operators who are part of the Mo News Premium community. We have now several hundred of them as part of the Small Business Directory. Many of them sell their goods online. Some of them are brick and mortar. Some are all of the above. Check them out. Give them some love. Give some of your fellow Mo News community members some love over at mo.news/shop-small, mo.news/shop-small for really an eclectic, really interesting, really great group of businesses out there. Moshe, I have spent a lot of time looking at this list of small businesses that is on our directory. I am so impressed by the creativity. There's just these awesome photographers and artists. One company caught my eye. It's called Celebs on Sandwiches. They basically sell watercolor art prints. And as they say, it combines society's favorite obsessions, celebrity culture, and food. And their pictures, Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd on some type of pickle pastrami sandwich. they have a Sabrina. I'm looking at the website now. They have a Sabrina Carpenter on an egg sandwich with an espresso, naturally. There's a lot of Mo News community members with some fun hobbies and some great businesses. Okay, from Variety, Moana 2 is expected to make waves at the box office over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The sequel to Disney's musical hit Moana opens in 4,200 North American theaters today and is projected to make
make between 135 million to 145 million in its first 5 days of release. So those ticket sales would overtake 2019's Disney sequel of Frozen 2, which brought in 125 million over the 5 days, and 2013's Hunger Games, Catching Fire, which brought in 109 million. Movie theaters are especially thankful for the expected win because the Moana follow-up was actually originally developed as a television show for Disney Plus before it was reworked to be a movie.
We should note the original Moana opened up on the Thanksgiving weekend back in 2016, became a huge success for Disney in the global box office, and in the 7 years after its debut, it was the most streamed movie of the year last year, 11.5 billion minutes watched, according to Nielsen. So that's Moana 2. As we've mentioned on the pod recently, there's also Wicked, as well as Gladiator 2. So a lot of movies out there, a little bit of something for everyone, depending on your taste and the types of movies you prefer. So another thing you can focus on at the table, which movie are you going to go see in the theaters? Have you seen any interesting movies lately? Or whether your friends and family are waiting for it to just come to streaming?
And for all those Moana fans out there, like myself, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is back as Maui, but Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the music for the first one, he's not coming back for the second. So hopefully the music will be just as good. Okay, for my hometown paper Newsday, chances are it's going to be a rainy Thanksgiving Day, but the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. But that will not stop the festivities for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. Law enforcement agencies are making plans to thwart any threat attempts. The NYPD and the FBI were among several law enforcement agencies that said in a recent report that the parade was an attractive target to terrorists. The NYPD will have sanitation trucks and other so-called blocker vehicles deployed along the route. About 3.5 million people are expected to line the parade route despite the weather. Another 50 million or so will be watching on television. And in much lighter news, there will be 6 new balloons. So, Moshe, this is where I think the conversation starts. Best new float.
Right. Look out for Disney's Minnie Mouse, Marshall from Paw Patrol, as well as Spider-Man. Another new float, Gabby's Dollhouse, will include a 55-foot tall balloon featuring Gabby and Pandy Paws that will have 10 different shades of pink.
Moshe, that's the float we'll be looking for in my house.
All right. I hope the weather cooperates. Right now, there's 22 big balloons, 7 so-called balloonicles, 34 floats, 28 clown crews, a number of performances, including Ariana Madix, Idina Menzel, Kylie Minogue, and The Temptations, or at least the latest iteration of The Temptations. The event is actually the second oldest Thanksgiving parade in the U.S., along with the one in Detroit. The oldest, actually, Philadelphia. You have those honors. I should note that the rain shouldn't be an issue. The balloons are allowed to go in the rain. It's wind that is always the concern after an incident about 20 years ago where a spectator was injured back then in the 90s. So the rule is that balloons are not allowed to be operated when there's sustained winds of 23 miles per hour or gusts of 34. Right now, despite the rain, it looks like the wind's going to stay down way under 23 miles per hour. So we should be in luck. All right, now time for a quick On This Day in History on this November 27th. On this day in 1895, the Nobel Prizes were established through the will of one Alfred Nobel. He was a Swedish chemist and engineer who actually invented dynamite, fun fact. And as part of his will, he's like, I want to give out these prizes, including the Nobel Peace Prize. On this day, back to the Macy's Thanksgiving theme, the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was held on this day in 1924. Balloons would not be there in 24, but the first balloons make their appearance in 1927. We talked about movies earlier. On this day, 11 years ago in 2013, Frozen debuted in theaters on this day. And in music history news, Jill, pick this one for you. On this day in 2021, just 3 years ago, Taylor Swift's version of All Too Well, with a running time of 10 minutes and 13 seconds, hit number 1 on the Billboard charts. It was the longest song to ever top the charts, surpassing Don McLean's American Pie, which runs 8 minutes and 36 seconds. So Taylor Swift beats that by nearly 2 minutes at a 10-minute and 13-second song.
I do think the extended version well worth all 10 minutes and 13 seconds.
So, Jill, you could say that one of the things you're thankful for that takes us into our final segment today.
That's right. Before we go on this Thanksgiving Eve, Moshe and I wanted to take a moment to talk about what we're thankful for. So Moshe, a given here, we are extremely thankful for everyone who listens to this podcast, who we really do think of as friends that we have a conversation with about the news. So truly, thank you all for listening, for your notes and messages, for letting us know your thoughts on stories, and for laughing with us as we do try to provide a bit of levity in these crazy times.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of you who come up and say hi. I ran into one of you at Denver Airport as I was flying back, as Alex and I were flying back from Colorado on Tuesday. Also, several of you at the conference I spoke at in Colorado Springs. A huge thank you to the team here who helped put together the Mo News podcast. Our editor, Arian, who patiently edits this podcast, no matter the hour of day or early morning, especially recently with this news cycle. Khalid, who edits the video version of this podcast that a number of you watch over on the Mo News YouTube page. We're also thankful to the growing team here at Mo News. Lauren Janes, who writes the newsletter. Sari, who just joined the editorial team as well, both on the podcast, newsletter, and Instagram side. Our new COO, Ren, who keeps us all in check. Brooke, who manages our partnerships. Ashley, who helps keep the trains running on time. The team over at 1022 Productions, who helped launch this and keeps this train running. And our new friends over at the Money News Network, Morgan and Nicole and the team over there, who we've been working with. And our new friends over at the Money News Network, Morning and Nicole and the team over there that we're working with.
Okay, Moshe, switching gears, some other things I am thankful for, starting with the little things. I am thankful for my morning cup of coffee with Chobani creamer, which makes my mornings sweet and gives me a much needed boost. This year, I also started to play tennis for the first time since high school. So if you do the math, we're talking more than a decade since I picked up a racket.
Totally. You just had your 10-year high school anniversary, right, Jill?
More or less.
More or less.
But it has helped me get into better shape. I've made a bunch of new friends, and it gives me a couple of hours a week to just focus solely on what is happening on the tennis court and not my life. So it's really nice to have that. I'm very thankful, as we mentioned above, for Taylor Swift and Noah Khan, who have provided the soundtrack to my year. I'm also very thankful for my children's book critique group. As I've mentioned here, I've been working on writing a couple of children's books. And this group of amazing children's book authors have really given me so much support and encouragement. And it's just been this really nice creative outlet. Something that I mentioned the other day, I am thankful for Magic Treehouse books that have really made nighttime reading with my daughter a lot more fun and educational. I'm also thankful for my daughter's school, specifically her teacher, who has just instilled in her a love of learning. Big picture here, I'm also so incredibly thankful for my family, my parents, who I talk to about 5 times a day. I am so thankful that they are such a big part of my life and, more importantly, my kids' lives. My mom, who comes over almost every afternoon to spend time with my kids so I can record the podcast. And then there is my daughter, who is sassy, funny, and just delicious. And I am truly amazed at the things she says, the way that her brain works, how sweet and empathetic she is. My son, who is unbelievably now 2.5 and just gets cuter, more curious, and a bit more mischievous every day. My husband, who is the glue that holds it all together and puts our entire family ahead of himself. And Moshe, as I said before, I am incredibly thankful for this podcast, for our audience, for you, who created such an incredible company that I am honored to be a part of. I am grateful we get to talk news every day, have some very real belly laughs, and I do feel very lucky to be doing a job that I am so passionate about and which does not feel like work most of the time.
Except I'm like, Jill, 11:39. I was like, we got to update the podcast. Something just happened. Jill, I'm thankful for you. Thankful for our friendship, for you as a colleague, as a friend. It makes dealing with this news cycle, regardless of when the news happens, not feel like a chore ever. And so appreciate being able to grow this with you. And I appreciate your flexibility and rolling with, some of my ideas that I sometimes don't tell you about until we hit record on the podcast.
Okay, we're doing that. Got it.
Oh, what are we doing, Mosh? What's the new Mo News thing? As we continue to grow this, I'm thankful for all of you, the listeners. We've doubled our listenership since launch. We're approaching just 4 million downloads alone this year, 7 million since launch back in 2022. Instagram has grown. Instagram Premium has doubled over the last year. The more than 100 guests that we've had on our interview podcast over the last year and a half, 2 years or so. All your support, all your notes amid some of the nastiness we can say on social media. So appreciate all of you proving that it is possible to have respectful conversations, even about controversial issues. I'm appreciative and grateful to all of you in this audience who seek out facts and information in the mess of opinion and disinformation out there. You guys make all the difference. You are fighting the good fight. Don't do it at the Thanksgiving table, but you're doing it on a daily basis out there, proving that it is important to seek out facts and not just believe whatever the latest social media video is that you saw. As for me, I'm so incredibly grateful for my family, my incredible wife, Alex, patient with this crazy life that she has signed up for, loving, thoughtful, putting everyone and everything before herself. Watching you as a mother has been incredible this past year, rolling with the news 7 days a week, all hours. It has been quite a year for us watching Olivia in her first year of life. Olivia, you will listen to this and understand this one day, but I'm thankful for the pure joy you bring to my life. Watching you grow up already in this first year, being your father is the best thing that has ever happened to me. I love you without conditions. And no matter how I am feeling, I could be having a terrible day. Seeing you, seeing your face, holding you, wipes that all away. And so I tear up here, but I love you so much and I'm so thankful for you. And I am biased here. I try to not be biased here on this podcast and present all this objectively. But you are literally the smartest, most amazing, thoughtful little girl in the world. And so watching you, even when you sit down for a meal and you try to serve us your food before you eat it yourself, and then you try to feed your dolls before you feed yourself, I can't wait to watch the person, the woman that you grow into. But please don't do it very fast, because I really love you small and being able to hold you and cuddle you right now. I could say more about you, but I also want to note I'm thankful for my parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, my beautiful nieces and nephew. I love you all. Also thankful for Alex's family, their love and support. It really does take a village to raise a family. We talk about this a lot on the podcast. So I'm thankful and grateful to all of you, my family and friends here and around the world. Hi, beautiful girl. Did you hear I was talking about you on the podcast? Olivia has joined me for those of you listening. I'm thankful for you, my friends and family around the world, my friends from growing up, high school, college, and afterwards, who all keep me very humble in this life and keep things light. Beyond that, I'm thankful for great pastries, dessert, ice cream, a really great fried chicken sandwich, a good beer after a long day, great music, and thankful for the Almighty who has granted me with such an incredible life and family and relationships. And so I could go on, but I'm going to stop right there, Jill.
What was that?
I think, hi, cutie.
Mosheh, it is so important every day, but particularly on Thanksgiving, to really think about all of the good that we have in our lives and all of those things that we are so lucky to have and that we're so thankful for. So that was very sweet and heartfelt, and I appreciate it. And I know for me and you, I think we meant every word of that. So thank you all again. And Mosheh, it is so important, not only on Thanksgiving, but every day, to really think about the things that we are thankful for. And so I am thankful that we had the opportunity to really lay it out there. It feels good.
My mother-in-law, Melissa Garson, has a book out on happiness, the steps to happiness. And she talks on a daily basis about the importance of gratitude on a daily basis, taking a moment to talk about what you're grateful for in your day, no matter how big or how small.
All right, everyone. So this Thanksgiving, don't forget to take some time to really think about all that is good in your lives. Thank you again for listening to this podcast every day. We so appreciate it. And have a wonderful holiday. We'll be back on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you then.